What's up, everybody? I'm Chris Dailey, joined here by Andreas Lindberg. He's the head coach at Seton Hall. So, Andreas, thank you for joining me, and thanks for joining the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chris. I'm excited.
Yeah. So, you're quite the successful coach, but you actually started as a player, growing up in Sweden, right outside of Malmo. What was your youth career like? Because I know U.S. and Sweden are a lot different in terms of youth soccer, probably, especially back then. So, what was your youth soccer career like?
Yeah, I started for my club in the town that I lived in, which is a small town, about 20 minutes outside Malmo. My dad had played in that club. My uncles had played. My grandpa actually used to be the president back in the day. It was a club that was founded in 1908, so it's an old club in comparison to a lot of clubs here in the United States. And I played there from I was 6 or 7 until I was 15. Did my whole youth career there. And then once I was 15, I had an opportunity to join Malmo and played for their academy there for a little bit before I started going overseas.
Yeah, and talk about going overseas, how, because I know they labeled it the Swedish invasion of all those kids going to Southampton College. So, how did you kind of find out about Southampton College, and how did that opportunity, come about?
Yeah, it was a friend to a friend. He lived about an hour and a half away from me. So I was visiting him, and he was telling me about, his experience playing Ncaa college and in Southampton. And it was nice, close to the beach. And I think I've told this story a few times before, but, they told me it was like half an hour outside New York City when it was closer to 2 hours. But I thought that was a big draw, close to New York City. Obviously, the beach in the Hamptons is not too shabby, and that's how that came about.
Yeah, so I talk about the Swedish invasion. Tons of kids, from Sweden go to Southampton and play soccer in America. So did that kind of make it easier for you going over there, knowing that you have these Swedish kids also there?
Yeah, it's easier with transition. Obviously, language being one, even though we did speak English a little bit. But, it's nice to have a couple of familiar, and maybe not faces because I didn't know those guys, but some familiarity that made the transition a lot easier. And I loved my time in Southampton. I spent 4 years there as a player, and then ended up coaching there for another 3, and I still have a house out there, and it's I love it. It's 22 years later, and it's very fortunate to be able to have an opportunity to live in the Hamptons.
Yeah, and being a coach, because you're now a coach at Seton Hall, like a top D1 school, playing in Southampton, how has the level of play changed from then to now?
Yeah, I think it's just a lot more professional, more organized. It's 22 years ago I came over, and the game has certainly developed. MLS is a legit league, and you got USL Pro and all the 3 divisions of NCAA, and it's just a lot more professional than it is now. I think the biggest difference, too, if you compare Southampton to Seton Hall, is, one is Division 2 and Seton Hall's Division 1. But back then, I didn't think that was too much of a difference, really. But now Division 1, it's a lot of teams, a lot of schools with all the resources, and it's just very competitive. And the depth for all the teams is much stronger than it was 20 years ago.
Yeah, and obviously you played 4 years, as you mentioned, and then become the coach. But as a player, what's your most memorable moment from your time in Southampton?
Unfortunately, it's a loss. As a player, we lost in a national quarterfinals in the Elite Eight against Southern Connecticut in 1999 in 4th overtime. Back then, after 90 minutes, it was 2-2, and we had 15 minutes of overtime, and another 15 minutes in overtime, and another 15 minutes in overtime, and then 8 minutes into the 4th overtime, Southern Connecticut ended up scoring the game winner 3-2, and they became eventual champs that year. And yeah, it's sad to say I'm still not really over it. But a lot of my friends were seniors. I was a sophomore, and it was quite upsetting. So that's the strongest memory that I have, on the field. But other from that, I made lifelong friends. My best friends. I still talk to those guys every year, and we were very successful. But obviously, we didn't win a national championship, which was the goal. But yeah, just the memories alone with the boys and the team and the friends that you made, it was really really special for me.
Yeah, and I mean, you stay there for a few years after, because what happens is your coach gets let go, and then before you even finish school, the athletic director asks you to be the coach. So I mean, I don't know if this will ever happen now. I don't think it will. But what's going on throughout your mind when your AD says to you, "Listen, can you coach the team?"
Yeah, I'm not sure. I was still hoping to play. Really, I was 24, and I thought I was, decent enough to maybe go play, and and if it's semi-pro or whatever. And yeah, she just came up with this crazy idea, and I loved my time there, and I was able to continue to study and do my master's and my MBA. So, she told me that she thought I had good leadership qualities. I've been the captain for 2 years, and yeah, I loved it. So I jumped on it and didn't think much of it. Never did I think that, what is it now, 15, 16 years later, I was sitting here, 18 years later, that I was sitting here coaching soccer as a job and make it a career. That was not really what I had in mind back
then. Yeah, that's just absolutely crazy how you get into that. And I mean, just imagine now, let's say you can't coach anymore, and then the AD at Seton Hall says to a senior, "Hey."
Yeah, you're right. That probably wouldn't fly these days.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you watched the Champions League, but that guy at Leipzig, Julian Nagels,
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
He's 33 and he's coaching right now. So there's a lot of young managers, and it's funny seeing there's players that are older out there.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, the game is definitely, there's a lot of up and coming good coaches.
Yeah. So after you've obviously coached in Southampton, and then you stop and you go to the Hampton Surf, which is a team in the professional arena soccer league. So why did you decide to go to a completely different game in a sense, in arena soccer, and coach there?
Yeah, like I said before, I wasn't really thinking back then to make coaching a proper career. I think a lot of people would say don't go into college coaching because you're not going to make money. You're going to be, working a lot of hours, and obviously the game has completely changed. So it was just an opportunity that came. I was approached running in by by an owner, and wanted to see if I had an interest, and I'm never scared of jumping on new projects, so that was pretty fun. We did it for a year, unfortunately. The management ended up backing out of it after a year, but we had a lot of fun. There were some good players on that team. Players that ended up playing even in the MLS and the MISL too. So I'm happy we did that.
Yeah, on Instagram, I interview professional arena soccer players because I went to a game and I was hooked on it because it's a really fun, fast-paced game.
Right.
Yeah, so I always ask them oh, what's the biggest difference, this and that, and a lot of guys also say that a lot of these guys could go pro. One guy said, "Oh, every player in this league could go to MLS." I'm not sure about every player, but maybe a few of them. So I don't know if you're going overboard there, but still, I mean, there's a lot of good talent in the arena soccer, and back in the '80s, it was huge. There was arena soccer teams getting better attendance than the Chicago Bulls. So it's
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So
that's very true.
Yeah, and then following that tenure there, you go to LIU Post and become a legend. The 796 win percentage, which is crazy. You go to a few Ncaa tournaments. What makes obviously you're a great coach. So what makes a great coach great?
Players. The players can make you great, right? You got to make sure. Especially I think in college, you got to get the right players. It's a lot about recruiting the right players as far as ability goes, but even more when it comes to character and getting players that can lead. I think coaching college is very unique. You have young men, 18 to 24 years old, and yeah, it's a very unique situation, but I think that's the big one. making. I wouldn't know if I'm a great coach, but players certainly at LIU Post did make me look great.
Yeah, and I mean that's a good answer. So I mean you did very successful. Like the conference, I think you had 8 conference championships. Went number 1 in the ranking 5 times. So things like that are phenomenal. And you talk about recruiting. Like how do you recruit a player and get them to come to your school?
Yeah, now I think Seton Hall kind of sells itself in many ways.
Yeah.
You're 12 miles outside the greatest city in the world, we're New York City. Academically, it's a strong school. And obviously the Big East being this past year the second best conference in the country when it comes to NCAA Division I soccer. So, but players these years, they're very educated about the process. They know what schools are out there. They know their worth. So contacts, getting out there. It's a lot of miles on trains and buses and cars and planes to try to find the right guys, both in America and overseas. So it's a lot of hard work that needs to be done.
And I watch a few YouTubers about like how to become pro, how to do this and that, and they say like they were talking to the New York City FC coach, I think it was, and he gets like thousands of emails a week on like, hey, can I play for your team? So as a D1 coach, how many emails do you think you get?
Yeah, it's not 1,000 a week, but it's probably 100. I think that's very realistic. We do get bombarded with emails. And a lot of the emails, unfortunately, I don't know what people and players and recruiters, what they're thinking, because a lot of these emails are just mass emails. Sometimes they're even copying all the coaches at once. So people are not really doing a great job sometimes. But yeah, we get bombarded with emails for sure. And it's a lot of myself and Jeff and Ali, 2 assistants here, put in a lot of hours, watching video and going through emails.
And I'm a Notre Dame fan and Seton Hall because I mentioned my parents went there too. But Notre Dame's like the family thing. And Rudy, I don't know if you ever watched that movie, but
yeah, great movie. Yeah,
about a walk-on. So have you had any walk-ons throughout any point in like your college coaching career?
Yeah, I had a few. It's come a couple of memorable ones. Maybe not exactly like Rudy, but we had one guy out in Southampton, and we had a small roster there. His name was Barry, great guy. He was a big Red Sox fan, and he came and tried out, and as far as a soccer standpoint, he wasn't really there, but he was just such a great guy that we even had players, come in and say, Coach, we got to keep this guy. Like, this guy's funny. He's a great teammate, and we ended up keeping him, and he stayed on for for a good year and a half, and it's a funny story because he got tickets to the Red Sox, when they were in the World Series, and we had a game that same day, and he was very conflicted there. But it was a great guy, Barry. So he reminded me of Rudy a little bit.
Yeah, and what did Barry end up doing? Red Sox?
Well, he ended up getting it. He didn't play much, but he ended up becoming a teacher and family man and got kids. He's a great dude.
Well, yeah, so that's funny. Maybe nowadays on the bench you can just go on your iPhone, stream it, make sure the coach doesn't see, but honestly, if he gets caught, off the team. So, anyway, yeah, so do you see your players, like, all season, just preseason and regular season? Like, how does that work?
If I coach them year round, you mean?
Yeah.
Not completely. NCAA have a lot of rules for what we allowed. So we actually started up practice today. Everybody, we did our testing and physicals here a few days ago, and everyone's good to go. So we're starting training today. Typically, we start, early to mid-August, and then we go, up until November. Thanksgiving, National Championship is the first weekend of December. So during the fall, it's very intense. And then the players go on Christmas and New Year's break, and then they come back here middle of January, and then we keep them until May. So that's pretty much when we coach them. And then in the summertime, they're off. They have summer vacation, internships, co-ops, and a lot of them end up playing in, I guess it's called USL2 now, or old PDL, playing club soccer in the summer.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of like the UPSL, NPSL, and then the USL League too, and a lot of I think a lot of teams, like the Red Bulls, have a U23 team. So there's a lot of teams, like MLS teams, USL teams, that have teams within those leagues.
Yeah, for sure. One of our players, JP Marin, he's playing on that U23 Red Bulls teams in the summertime.
Yeah, and so I mean that's good stuff because I go to one of those games. I go to an NPSL game because I mean the tickets are cheap. You can watch soccer, eat food. I mean it's good. So yeah. So and now I mentioned like you make 7 NCAA tournament appearances at LIU Post. Describe the intensity, especially from a sideline watching this game as an NCAA tournament game.
That's definitely different. You can tell. I think you can tell in the lead up. There's just a tension. In the locker room and in practice, and the focus is there. It's the big stage where you want to be on. And then there's also some NCAA rules. If you're at home, or in your way, you can train for a certain amount of time on the field, and it's exciting. There's definitely a intensity going up to an NCAA game.
Yeah. And now, yeah. So, and at LIU Post, one of your players actually won National Player of the Year. So I'm not sure his name exactly, but so have any of your players gone on to take the next step and play professionally?
Yeah, I've had a couple, from Post that ended up going and getting contracts in Europe, professional contracts. We have quite an impressive resume there from our LIU Post days that are now involved in not just playing, but also managing and, at clubs that are in Viking Stavanger in Norway. They just won the Norwegian Cup. One of my captains there, Eric Bjorno, he's the CEO of the whole club. He's the youngest one there in a long, long time. They're going to qualify for the qualification rounds of Europa League at the moment. Another player of mine, Kevin Minnie, he's a strength and conditioning coach for Standard Liège. Same thing there, Europa League right. And then a few others that went back and played, pro level, both in Sweden and in Norway.
Yeah, that's cool.
So yeah, it's great.
Yeah, and you see a lot of more guys go pro now because there's so many opportunities in the States back then. Maybe when you were a kid coming out of college, maybe that's a reason why you started to coach, because I know there's so many leagues and it's just crazy how things have changed since, just 25 years ago.
Yeah, you're right. There's definitely a lot more opportunities now. I still don't think there is enough, if you compare to Europe that we talked about. Just in Sweden alone, that have 10 million people living there, I think there is, 30, 40 pro teams, just in that small country that are proper pro. And then you got all the semi-pro teams as well. So I would love to see even more teams. U.S. is such a big country.
Yeah, definitely more.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot more. Like Jeff Mateo, my assistant here, he played in MLS, and back then there was only 10 or 12 teams, and there's around 30 now. So definitely a lot more opportunities. It's great for the players.
Yeah, a lot of people talk about promotion relegation. I mean, I'm not sure if they can do it right now, especially because we need soccer to grow, and I don't think it might not be the best move right now, but maybe in the future. Do you have any thoughts on that, like a pro rel in America?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to work in the United States. You have all these owners that are paying a lot of money to be playing in MLS. And because of that alone, I don't think it will work the way it's set up at the moment. I love the promotion relegation concept. I think the championship in England is, one of the most exciting leagues in the world because of that. It means so much for those teams to get promoted to the Premier League. In theory, you can start at any club at any level, and there is always a chance, so to speak, that you can make that team go all the way up to the top and get promoted in the top league. That people here in America don't have that opportunity, but it's also not the way the sports is set up here. If you're looking at all the pro teams, the NBA and NHL and NFL, you have and baseball, you have owners that are paying so much money to just be joining the league. If I'm an owner and I've spent $250 million to get an MLS team, I don't want my team to get relegated.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we have the culture here to be able to do that. But in principle, I do love the concept.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I used to be the biggest person who would say, oh, pro rel, it's going to change everything. But now, actually, when you look at what you just said, because I've talked to people about it, I don't think it can work. and especially because it will take the Americanism away out of the sport, and you kind of still have to keep it because we're trying to get American fans to watch soccer and love soccer like we do. At, so after LIU Post, you go to Seton Hall as we talk about, and the Pirates saw instant improvement. Team looked a lot better, a lot sharper, and the results showed. So, in your personal opinion, like how did your move to Seton Hall go in that first season?
Yeah, it's been going pretty smooth. I love the people that are here at Seton Hall. The administration, the athletic department, anybody that works on campus are very proud to be a Pirate, myself included. And I think that's something that I really cherish. People here love their jobs. It's a great place to work. We haven't had the success where I wanted to go, but I also know it takes time. I'm looking back at my time at Post. My third year there is when it really kicked in. And unfortunately, this fall we're not going to have an opportunity to show. But this fall we're supposed to be our recruiting class. All the players on the team were recruited by us. We felt that we were taking steps one season at a time. But yeah, I love it here. It's a great place, and the players that we have and the players that we had coming in, we're very excited about.
Yeah, and I see that you're you're in your office right now. You showed me the Sasha Klashton jersey, which was pretty cool. So right now, like, how are you managing your players because of the coronavirus? You talk about practice, and like, how have you managed it throughout these past like 6 months?
Yeah, it's been hard. It's been hard mentally for everybody. It's been an emotional roller coaster. One day we think we're going to play, and the next day we don't, and it goes back and forth. But we now have, a clear message from the Big East that we will not be playing a full season, and they were postponed to the spring. So we're going to start training tonight for the first time. I'm excited about that. The players are excited about that. We've done our Corona COVID testing. We have our masks. We have all the protocols that we need to do. We've done our physicals. And we are 3.5 hours away from our first practice, which is exciting. Have to do things a little bit different, obviously. But yeah, the boys are excited about it. And then we're just going to work hard this fall to individually get better, continue to work on our team chemistry, and then try to get ready for spring when we're going to be able to play games that mean something.
Yeah, and that's because I'm playing high school soccer, like the tryouts right now, and the coaches have to wear masks, but the players don't. So is it the same in college, or is it different?
The coaches here need to wear masks as well, and then depending on what we do, the players need to wear masks at certain times as well.
Yeah, and now can you guys like go full 11v11, or is it just kind of small sided and you guys can't tackle?
No, we could tackle. Like again, it depends on what we're looking to do. I think it's a return to play protocol as well. So we haven't trained since March 11th or 13th, and it's 5 months ago. We're not looking today to go out and do 11v11 right off the bat. It'd be a lot of nice and slow and kind of get used to it a couple of days, and in a few weeks we're hoping that we're going to be able to go full steam ahead.
Yeah, and that's interesting because I guess high school soccer, I mean obviously 2 different levels, but differs a lot from college right now when it comes to everything. And I know my cousin, she plays, her season got canceled. A lot of seasons are getting canceled, and some teams in like what is it? It's like college, like the Big Ten. They're thinking about moving to the SEC. It's just crazy what's happening right now. So it's definitely
it's a lot of unknown. We don't really know what the college landscape is going to look like here going forward.
Yeah, and how have you been like recruiting? I know there's a deadlock period, but how have you been recruiting players during coronavirus?
Yeah, I mean, we were pretty much done there, when we packed up in March. We were pretty much done for the fall. Some official paperwork and waiting for some evaluations, but we were pretty much done for the 2020 class. And then for 21, we were getting ready to kind of finalize a lot of those things, and that's been put on hold. Obviously we have a 2021 class. Our hope was that March was really the time where we want to kick in, that we can kind of watch them one last time to make those decisions, and that's been put on hold. It's just frustrating for us as coaches, but equally frustrating for players. We don't really know what's going to happen and how long this dead period is going to last. I know in the Division II level, it's only going to last until September 1. So I'm hoping that Division I is going to follow suit pretty soon, that we're going to be able to come out and take a look at these kids so they can get situated for fall 21.
Yeah, and I mean, best of luck with that and everything you have going on at Seton Hall. Because I'm a Pirate fan myself, so it's pretty cool to be talking to you.
Thank you.
And yeah, I mean, I wanted to go to a game. I think it was last year, but something happened. I forget what game it was, but it was one of the games. So, I mean, if whenever fans can get back, I'll make sure to go to a Seton Hall game.
Right. Yeah, I'd be love to meet you in person. It would be awesome. Hopefully, we can see you at the game in the spring.
Yeah, and I mean that's about all I have for you. And you definitely had one of the craziest stories. And also, while I think of it, did you actually play tennis and lacrosse as well in college?
Yeah, I did. I was a three-sport athlete. That was pretty rare. I think it's still pretty rare. But yeah, I ended up playing all those three sports in college. Soccer was the number one.
Yeah.
That's where I got my scholarship. I guess that's where I had the most talent. But picking up a lacrosse stick and running around hitting people wasn't too difficult. And tennis is something I played my whole life. So yeah, it was awesome. I had great experience in college.
Yeah, because I just thought of that. I think I skipped over that question because I watched another interview. You did some of it, and I heard you say that, and I was like, ooh, I just started that. So that's, I mean, quite the athlete, quite the coach. Andreas, I thank you, for joining me here, and just, best of health and best of luck with practice tonight.
Appreciate it, Chris. Thank you so much, and good luck to you as well.
Thank you.